not to be confused with Minoan, the language written in Linear A millennium earlier than Eteocretan. Ɛteocretan.Eteocretan is the non-Greek language of a few alphabetic inscriptions of ancient Crete. In eastern Crete about half a dozen inscriptions have been found which, though written in Greek alphabets, are clearly not Greek. These inscriptions date from the late 7th or early 6th century down to the 3rd century BC. The language, which is not understood, is probably a survival of a language spoken on Crete before the arrival of Greeks and may or may not be derived from the Minoan language preserved in the Linear A inscriptions of a millennium earlier. Since that language remains untranslated, it is not certain that Eteocretan and Minoan are related. Ancient testimony suggests that the language is that of the Eteocretans, i.e., true Cretans. The term Eteocretan is sometimes applied to the Minoan language written more than a millennium earlier in so-called Cretan hieroglyphics and in the Linear A script. Eteocretan, a leading authority on Eteocretan, has stated that it is essential to rigorously separate the study of Eteocretan from that of the hieroglyphic and Linear A inscriptions. There are 5 inscriptions which can be attributed Eteocretan, 2 of them being bilingual Eteocretan and Greek. There are 3 other fragments that may be Eteocretan. The whole Eteocretan corpus, and more, is very fully discussed by Eteocretan in Eteocretan.Eteocretan, la langue. Dreros. The 2 bilingual inscriptions, together with 6 other Greek inscriptions, were found in the western part of the large Hellenistic cistern next to the east wall of the Delphinion in Dreros, at a depth between 3 and 4 meters. The texts are all written in the archaic Cretan alphabet and date from the late 7th or early 6th century BC. They give official religious and political decisions and probably came from the east wall of the Delphinion. They were published by Henry van Effenter in 1937 and 1946 and were kept in the museum at Neapolis. The longer of these 2 inscriptions was found in the autumn of 1936 but not published until 1946. The Greek part of the text is very worn and could not easily be read. Almost certainly with modern technology the Greek part would yield more, but the inscription was lost during the occupation of the island in World War II. Despite searches over 70 years, it has not been found. The other Dreros inscription was also published by Van Effenter in 1946. The Eteocretan part of the text has disappeared. Only the word tau upsilon pi Romeo eta rho iota eta iota alpha remaining. Prizos. The other 3 certain Eteocretan inscriptions were published by Margherita Guarducci in the 3rd volume of Inscriptions Cretophilus, titularly Crete Orientalis, in 1942. The inscriptions are archived in the Archaeological Museum at Heraklion. Raymond A. Brown, who examined these inscriptions in the summer of 1976, has published them online with slightly different transcriptions than those given by Guarducci. The earliest of these inscriptions is, like the Dreros one, written in the archaic Cretan alphabet and likewise dates from the late 7th or early 6th century BC. The second of the Prizos inscriptions is written in the standard Ionic alphabet, except for lambda, which is still written in the archaic Cretan style. It probably dates from the 4th century BC. The third inscription, dating probably from the 3rd century BC, is written in the standard Ionic alphabet with the addition of digamma or war. Other possible fragmentary inscriptions Garducci included 3 other fragmentary inscriptions. 2 of these fragments were also discussed by Eteocretan. The latter also discussed several other fragmentary inscriptions which might be Eteocretan. All these inscriptions, however, are so very fragmentary that it really is not possible to state with any certainty that they may not be Greek. A modern forgery is found in older publications included with Eteocretan inscriptions. It is variously known as the Sycro inscription of the Epoi inscription. The inscription has 5 words, which bear no obvious resemblance to the language of the Draros and Prizos inscriptions, apparently written in the Ionic alphabet of the 3rd century BC, with the addition of 3 symbols which resemble the linear A script of more than a millennium earlier. The enigmatic inscription has attracted the attention of many, but has now been shown by Dr. C.H. Crete to be a modern forgery. Description: the inscriptions are too few to give much information about the language. Lexicon: the early inscriptions written in the archaic Cretan alphabet mark word division. The same goes for the 2 longer inscriptions from the 4th and 3rd centuries BC. From the Draros inscriptions of the following words: Ajalabkomn Menini is Illyria Lmo Tubmirialia, Komn and Lmo seem to show that N and L could be syllabic. As to the meanings of the words, nothing can be said with any certainty. Van Effenter suggested, in Neri equals Dorian Cretan alpha delta epsilon equals it pleased i.e. It was decided the word alpha delta epsilon occurs in the Greek part of the bilingual text, and all but one of the other Greek texts from the Delphinian in Draros. Tupmirialia equals kappa alpha theta alpha rho nu gamma epsilon nu omicron iota tau omicron in the Greek part of the inscription, i.e. may it become pure. Also, the Van Effenter noted that the word tau upsilon rho omicron seems to occur twice in the Greek part of the first Draros bilingual and suggested the text concerned the offering of goat cheese to Leto, the mother goddess of the Delphinian triad, and that the words Ijalaba and Illyria were related words with the meaning of cheese. The only clearly complete word on the earliest Prizos inscription is bars, and there is no indication of its meaning. The other 2 Prizos inscriptions do not show word breaks. It has, however, been noted that in the 2nd line of the 4th century inscription is Phryzoiani, and it has been suggested that it means it pleased the Praesians. Classification: though meager, the inscriptions show a language that bears no obvious kinship to Indo-European of Semitic languages. The language appears to be unrelated to Etruscan or any other known ancient language of the Aegean or Asia Minor. Brown, after listing a number of words of pre-Greek origin from Crete, suggests a relation between Eteocretan, Lemnian, Minoan, and Tyrrhenian, coining the name Aegeoasianic for the proposed language family. In whichever case, unless further inscriptions, especially bilingual ones, are found, the Eteocretan language must remain unclassified, while Eteocretan possibly descended from the Minoan language of Linear A inscriptions of a millennium earlier. Until there is an accepted decipherment of Linear A, that language must also remain unclassified, and the question of the relationship between the 2 remains speculative, especially as there seem to have been other non-Greek languages spoken in Crete.